Joe Rowling asked me to read this here today. Having seen Dan Radcliffe's screen test, I don't think Chris Colombus could have found a better Harry. I wish Dan, Emma, and Rupert the very best of luck and hope that they have as much fun acting the first year at Hogwarts as I had writing it.
After J.K. Rowling had written the books and got them published in America, it was only a matter of time that studios from Hollywood would want to buy the rights to adapt this property into movies. Allegedly, so many movie studios were after the rights of Harry Potter, and even Nintendo, the games company, wanted to acquire the rights to make exclusive games for their platforms. Eventually, it came down to Warner Brothers acquiring the rights, but not without some pushback from J.K. Rowling. In an interview on Jonathan Ross, she explained why she was hesitant to sell the rights initially. So it appears she was keen to have the books made into movies, but she was weary about the rights themselves. As she said, it was initially thought by the studios that it was a money issue, but it was more about protecting her intellectual property. Rowling was a consultant on the films, did have some level of creative control, but not entirely. Because of this, the films could have been very different early on. There were many actors and directors approached to take on the project, and the film could have been very different to how it turned out. Obviously, something to bring up is the title of the book and the film. The first film in America and the books were published under the name The Sorcerer's Stone instead of The Philosopher's Stone. This is allegedly because American publishers didn't believe that people would be interested in a book with philosophy in the title, believing that is associated with old and boring information. In regards to how the film could have turned out, J.K. Rowling did put some input into what the film could have been. However, she was rejected on some things and approved on others. Initially, she had wanted Terry Gilliam to direct the film, and it's also apparent that the director was very keen to come onto the project. However, the studio weren't keen on Terry Gilliam, and this caused some conflict between Rowling and the studio. Other directors were thrown around though. For a while, Steven Spielberg was attached to direct the film, along with Haley Joel Osment playing Harry Potter. Although from the sounds of it, this wouldn't have been live action, it would have been an animated movie, and the rest of the movies would also have been animation, not live action. Other directors had been considered to direct The Philosopher's Stone. Alan Parker, Jonathan Demme, Rob Reiner and Mike Newell were all considered before finally Chris Columbus was brought on to direct. It's worth mentioning that Mike Newell would go on to direct Goblet of Fire. Eventually, Chris Columbus did come on to direct the first movie, not having been Rowling's first choice. However, Rowling has gone on to express how impressed she was with Chris Columbus and his ability to work with the younger actors. Having directed Home Alone, he had worked with child actors before, and she's even gone on record to say how great he was with the three main cast members.
It turns out, because neither me, Rupert and Emma could remember this, but it turns out we did all audition together once. There was a screen test where they all tested us all at the same time. And I could hear Chris Columbus's voice off camera.
Hello, it's the German Harry. Time to leave. Be gone from the library, now. Cut! Great work, guys.
And I just remembered, God, he was brilliant. He was amazing with us. I don't think anybody else could have got the enthusiasm out of those.
He's just the nicest guy in the world, isn't he?
Nicest guy in the world.
And a real family man. I remember meeting him and being, I don't know where is not the right word, but obviously this is the person who's going to be taking my baby, and same way I felt when I met Steve Clovis, whom I absolutely adore as well. But, you know, first time you meet these people, and he was just such a nice guy, and the relief, both that my book would be in safe hands, but to be honestly, that you were all going to be in safe hands as well.
In England, it's different than in America. In America, they treat you first and foremost as a star and then as a child, whereas actually you should be treated as a kid first and then an actor second.
One of the things, however, that she did have some level of control over was where the film was going to shoot and the cast. She didn't have direct control over the cast, but she was insistent that it be made in Britain and the cast be made up of British and Irish actors.
David Heyman, the producer, knew my dad because my dad had been a literary agent, and my dad had worked with David's mum And so David sort of asked my dad if I would audition, and the original deal was that we'd heard was going to be to do 6 films, and it was going to be done in America, and it was all sort of,
It was going to be done in America. No one ever told me that.
Well, obviously, maybe that's why it changed, because you probably put your foot down at some point, or they just went, Joe won't agree to that.
They know me quite well.
Which was good, to be honest.
She didn't want American actors playing these roles. When Chris Colombus was first brought on board to direct the film, he wanted Liam Aiken to play the role of Harry Potter, as they had previously worked together. You may know Liam Aiken from playing Klaus in a series of unfortunate events. This was shot down, however, by Rowling's insistence that the cast be British. Even early on, this casting could have been very different, and the films could have turned out completely unrecognisable to what they are now. Even going back to Terry Gilliam, I think he has a very unique style of what the film would have been. Having him direct the first film, that would have influenced all the others in a very different way. But we'll never know what that film looks like. However, I think it's clear that Rowling is quite proud of the first Harry Potter films, and all the Harry Potter films for that matter. As part of her no American actors policy, there were American actors who were keen to jump on the project. Robin Williams was very keen to play the role of Hagrid, however because of her rule he was shot down for this. And it's reported that she was asked who would be the perfect Hagrid, and she said Robbie Coltrane, who did appear in the movie as the character. It's also reported that Rosie O'Donnell was approached for Molly Weasley by the studio, however Rowling's rule shot this down as well. There were 2 other actors considered for Harry Potter who were English, who did audition for the role but did not get it. Gabriel Thomas, who you may recognise from My Family, and William Moseley, who you may recognise from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, both auditioned for the role of Harry Potter, but ultimately lost out to Daniel Radcliffe. Reportedly, J.K. Rowling was also offered the role of Lily Potter by the studio. She turned this down, being not very interested in doing that. Also, initially, actor Tim Roth was cast as Snape. However, because of a scheduling conflict, Tim Roth had to pick between Planet of the Apes and Harry Potter. Ultimately, he went on to star in Planet of the Apes, which he admits may have been a mistake on his part, but he's very pleased and has praised Alan Rickman's performance as the character. He has said that his take on the character would have been very different to what we'd have got in the movies. Before Richard Harris was cast as Dumbledore, other actors considered included Alec Guinness, Sean Connery and Richard Attenborough. It's also reported that Patrick McGoohan was reportedly approached for the role of Dumbledore, but had to decline due to his ill health. Richard Harris has also stated that the reason he took the role was because his granddaughter said she wouldn't talk to him ever again if he didn't do it. We could have also seen the appearance of another actor who appeared in the franchise later on. David Toulis, who played Remus Lupin in Prisoner of Azkaban and starred in the other films onwards, was originally requested to play the role of Quirrell, which went to Ian Hart. And Rick Mail, British comedian, was cast as Peeves and filmed scenes that didn't make it into the final cut of the movie. It was stated that the character was going to appear in the franchise later on. From what I found, due to CGI issues, and the character was cut from the franchise entirely. Also, the composer was going to be different. Eventually we got John Williams, who went on to compose for several of the films and had hoped to return later on. He had composed Hedwig's theme, which is the iconic Harry Potter theme, which is played throughout the other films, and many of the leitmotifs used in Williams's work can be heard throughout the other scores, even by the different composers brought later on. However, it was James Horner who was originally going to do the score for the film, best known for Avatar. So had this happened, the whole iconic music could have been very different to what we know. So it appears that the Harry Potter franchise could have been very different from the outset. You know, we could have got American cast members, American directors, it could have been shot in America, but Rowling's persistence to have a British cast led to what we got now. Overall though, Harry Potter has turned out fantastic and is a staple of cinema. So there you have it. Which other castings that I've mentioned would you have liked to have seen? Which director would you have liked to have seen take on the movie? Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to click the bell icon to keep up to date with all my videos, and thanks for tuning in.